Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performers Podcast. I'm your host, Thor Conklin, and today we have Prentice Howe. He's always believed in the underdogs. So do I, man. Now as owner and chief creative officer at Door Number 3, a full-service advertising agency based in Austin, Texas. Love Austin, Texas, man. If I didn't live in Atlanta, man, or San Diego, Austin would get it, no question. He's helping brands embrace their challenger ability and topple their giants. You have an Amazon bestseller. Congratulations. The Empowered Challenger Playbook. How brands can change the game, steal market share, and topple giants. Describes his strategies in details and backs them up with case studies, man. Love it. You know what? We're all trying to topple the giants.
That's right. We are.
What we're trying to do.
That's right. Yeah. I love the underdog spirit.
Absolutely, man. You know, I always root for the underdog. I came from New York, and people are like, oh, were you a Yankees fan? I'm like, no, I was a Mets fan. Oh, were you a Giants fan? I'm like, no, I'm a Jets fan. You know, give me the underdog, you know?
I know. I get it. I'm a Red Sox, so I'm a Red Sox fan. You know,
I can.
And I was always, you know, they were always underdogs. I mean, dating back to Bill Buckner, went through the legs. We never got it right. And now I tell my kids, you know, these are underdogs. And, you know, I got 2 kids, 9 and 10, and they don't understand. They're like, the Red Sox, they're underdogs? No, these guys are always winning. So, yeah, exactly. Things can change.
Absolutely. You know, I want to start off with, you know, the company that you currently own. You used to be the executive creative director, and then you end up buying it, which I think is really cool because, you know, you had the inner workings of the organization. You knew what you were getting. I purchased a company one time, and literally like the first week, somebody came to me and said, hey, it was a manufacturing company. So we need more of these. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I'm holding up a binder for those who listen to this on audio. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Then I find out what it is. I'm like, I have no idea where to get it. So, you know, I think it's a real advantage by doing that, knowing the organization. You bought it from a friend of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us the challenges about buying a business from someone you know.
Well, yeah, no, it's an interesting situation. It doesn't happen this way very often, but I grew up in advertising as a creative, which means, you know, I was a copywriter. So I went to SMU, graduated as a copywriter, worked at different agencies around the country, Austin, Los Angeles, Dallas, Detroit, and found my home as a creative director, as an executive creative director at Door Number 3 in Austin. So for 7 years, I worked as executive creative director at the agency. And I worked for a woman MP who founded the agency many years ago. And so I was working for her. She was my boss and had a great experience. And then there was an opportunity around 2009, 2010, where I realized that I was either going to grow in my career and do my own thing or in advertising or get out and become a boat builder or something. I mean, I just, you know, you realize you're in a same career for over 2 decades and you realize I have to keep growing or I got to do something else. And there was an opportunity to purchase the agency, and that was really attractive to me. Problem was, if you remember around 2009, that was a horrible time to purchase anything, really.
That's when I bought mine.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well,
we're in great. We had wonderful timing, didn't we?
You made it. So you're braver than I was. I looked at it and I said, "This is wonderful. I want to do this," but timing wasn't right. So I went off and did other things for a while. The opportunity came back in 2014. So I was able to kind of dust off that deal with her. We had a mutual respect for each other. We knew the deal. We had already architected it, and it was just a matter of putting it together and then coming back to an agency where I had worked and all of a sudden jumping on a moving train.
Interesting. So what are any lessons from that? Any learnings that, hey, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do this, don't do this, listeners?
You know what? It's a great question. And I think for me, it's do as much due diligence as you can, but then at some point, just go for it. Because you know what? If I had tried to learn everything, I might have talked myself out of it. If I had opened every closet and discovered everything, not that there were problems, it was a great transition. For me, it worked out really well. And it was a unique situation to be able to purchase a company from someone I respect, a company I was familiar with, clients I'd worked with. I mean, it was a really unique situation. But I think if I had obsessed too much over the details and how's that going to work and how's that going to work, I might have talked myself out of it. And I think that at some point you have to bet on yourself, and that's the best bet you can make, and believe that you can do it. And if you're surrounded by great people, you can do it. So I guess for me, it's my advice is get as smart as you can, but give yourself a deadline and just go for it.
Yeah, well, what I think you did very wisely is you understood not only the business, you understood the space. When I bought my manufacturing company, I got into a space I had no idea, not a clue what it was all about. I just figured I was bulletproof after 6 successful exits. I'm like, I can do anything, right?
You can do anything, yeah, right.
Well, yeah. I can do anything, but I'm going to take that one off the list.
Yeah, we still room to be humbled, right? So I guess you're humbled a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me ask you this. You know, you do due diligence, what I absolutely agree with. You understood the marketplace, you know, and what I find so often is really successful businesses are making a great bottom line. The owners that want to exit out of those businesses many times want, you know, just a ridiculous multiple on earnings. Did this owner want to get out and retire? What was the motivation of the person selling?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everyone has their own motivation. She was at a point where she was ready, put it this way, she wanted to stop running an agency. She did not lose her interest in advertising and marketing, and I think her pure true love was writing and consulting and being a strategist, but running an agency was something she was ready to move on from. So for her, it was one where she wasn't going to go, you know, off to Cabo and never be seen again. We were able to structure a deal. I didn't show up with, you know, a truckload of money. We had to be creative and figure out how to do it. I certainly had to, you know, it's a risk, absolutely, 100%. But she was kind enough to realize that she was selling to someone that would have to structure a creative deal, and we were able to do it, and it worked out. It worked out great, and she's now still in the business, doing her own thing, working as a consultant. So that was the trajectory in this case. But you know, you see all kinds of deals, and I know what you're saying about, you know, some people want it to be their last move. It wasn't the case here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always think it's great to get creative with the financing. It sounded like she had some at least skin in the game for a while. She had to make sure that the business was successful, because if it wasn't successful, you weren't going to be able to pay her off or back. You know, she had a vested interest in that. So I think it's really important when looking at buying a business, understand that business, already be in that business, and find someone that is selling for the right reasons, not just to get their payday. I don't blame anybody for wanting their payday, but I think you end up paying more for that acquisition than you really need to.
No, that's wise advice for sure.
You know, I know one of the things that you talk about is that you should foster rejection. You know, it's something that I think every business owner has to face. If you're not used to rejection, I think you're in the wrong business. Go work for somebody, because you're going to get rejected all the time. What's your thoughts about rejection?
You know, this is something that we kind of use as a pillar when we talk about brands that are challenging in the marketplace today. So if you look at brands that we call challengers, the ones that are really empowered and they're making a difference, they're gaining market share, they're stealing market share from bigger competitors. One of the personality traits that you see is what we call fostering rejection. So really pushing away the masses in order to attract your most ardent fans, and being comfortable with that. And, you know, we will have clients approach us and say, you know, we've got something for everyone. And that's just like the flip the table moment where you're like, all right, this isn't going to work. Like, we can't do that. That's not a smart strategy at all. Something for everyone's kind of the kiss of death, and really having the confidence to go for one specific audience, especially early on. If you think about brands that, you know, I look at a brand like Tough Mudder, you know, something like that's a big global, you think, well, they're a challenger. Well, now they've grown into this big global behemoth, but when they started, they were challenging ideals, and they're asking people to, you know, crawl through mud and go under barbed wire and scale fences. And it's crazy. And if they come out and said, we've got something for everyone, now they do, but they didn't start there. They didn't start there. And I think it's really critical for brands and to look at, you know, what's my biggest fan base? How do I foster that relationship and then allow it to grow from there? And so we look at that with all the brands we work with, and making sure that they're doing that to some degree, because that's how they thrive.
Yeah, you know, when you're approaching everyone and want everyone as a client, I guarantee two things. Your price point is low and your margins are low.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep. No, you're right about that. And there's those anomalies out there. I mean, what I just said does not track with the Walmarts of the world. Yeah. But I just think that they're the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. Well, look, Walmart's not for everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll shop there for some things, but certain things I'm not going to Walmart for.
Yeah. Right.
I'm going to Hermes for some. Some things I'm not. So I think you really got to figure out how to pick your lane. I always say with my clients, if you want to be rich, you got a niche.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, everybody, including myself, right? We all resist this. It's like, I don't want to get too narrow. I can also help these people over here.
I hear what you're saying, and it's something that we have to practice and be disciplined about ourselves as well. Right. I mean, I totally get it, but I think when you do it and you're disciplined about it, you see a lot of small doors close, but then one big door opens, and when that big door opens, you're in a really good spot. Yeah,
it's funny. I've got a client, very successful financial, not trader, but financial planner.
Yeah.
And he's now moved into the space where his ideal client is they have at least 1.5 million assets under management. But he's got a lot of clients in there that are 50, 100,000, $500,000, etc. And at first it was like, one day these guys might be at $1.5 million. I said, you're absolutely right. No question. Yeah. But let me ask you this. How much time are you spending on those clients? Oh, not too much. Not too much. All right, so let's break it down. How many times you meet with them a year? Broke all that down. Pretty soon, it was a ginormous chunk of his year being spent on these smaller clients. I said, what's that? When's the last time you got out and spent time with your key audience?
Yeah.
I'm kind of busy because I have this huge book. Well, the huge book is made up of this. So we actually devised a plan where he could take that book. He didn't have to let him go. He just had to find somebody else in his firm, handle those clients, and then he would be there as the ultimate advisor, account manager.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, and I think it transcends industries. And you probably heard that expression when you say yes to something, consider what you're saying no to. Right.
I mean, you always are. You're always saying.
You're always saying no to something.
I think one of the biggest lies that is being discussed today is you can have everything. That is the biggest bullshit line ever. It's a lie.
It is a lie.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't have a great body and then eat pizza every night. You can't have a great relationship and have girlfriends on the side.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you're right, and I think we're all a work in progress on this because it takes daily discipline.
It does. It does, and you always got to be looking at what the cost is. There's always a cost. Right. You talk about the 5 personality traits of empowered challenger brands.
Right, I do. Yes. So we just talked about one. One is foster rejection, but I'll start with another one. So we look at challengers that are kicking butt in the marketplace right now, and they really have. I would say, if you want to just boil it down and make it simple, there's 5 personality traits that they can draw upon at any time. It's kind of like David fighting Goliath. He had 5 smooth stones he could pick up and throw at the enemy, right? So these are like 5 personality traits that you can kind of arm yourself with at any time. One of them is lightning rod. We say lightning rod, call it that. It's like, think in terms of Lady Gaga, right? So by identifying her biggest fans and kind of catering to their needs and their tastes, she was able to become an icon, right? So love her or hate her, however you feel about her, but she really is someone you never forget. And so I think if you look at, there are some brands that have done this really well, whether it's Benetton or there's a new one, not too new, but Thinks, which is out of New York. Going back to Mike's Hard Lemonade. I mean, there's some brands that just continue to do that, and they do it really well, and they polarize themselves in a way that continues the conversation, not just to be polarizing, but a way that advances the brand story. So lightning rod, that's one. Next one is heretical. Really, brands that look over the horizon and bring you today what you didn't even realize you needed. Now, there's a lot of big brands you can think of, like Amazon, that have done that, but even smaller brands. I think about a cool brand that we've worked on and helped get going here in Austin, Bird's Barbershop. So these guys opened up a rock and roll barbershop where you come in and it's got a neighborhood vibe and they're playing rock and roll music. Sometimes there's a DJ and they serve you a beer while you're having a haircut. Now, when they open, that didn't exist. Now people have caught on. I didn't know I had to drink a beer when having a haircut, but what a really cool thing. So it's about the experience, the customer experience as much as anything, in playing that out. So bringing you something you didn't even know you needed. So looking over the horizon line, fostering rejection, which I talked about, pushing away the masses in order to attract your most ardent fans, being good with that, catering to all the needs of your most special fans, and then they will distribute the message from there and let it grow organically. And then the fourth one is one of my favorites. We call it compulsive servitude. So it's this idea of over-delivering to the extent that it's the very definition of your brand. So if you think about FedEx, when it positively had to be there the next day, you think about the Ritz-Carlton, they will guess every need and whim, and those chocolates and that specific kind of champagne is in your room, and you didn't even have to ask for it when you show up. So it's going beyond the please and the thank you. And their brands that do compulsive servitude extremely well, Zappos, Nordstrom. And then I'll give you an example. I was going online to purchase some flowers for a family member up in DC, and you go and you look for flowers, and you go through the typical FTD or 1-800-Flowers. Then you get to the checkout, and it's like $17 to just deliver them. So I kind of backed out, and I thought, there's got to be another company out there that's doing this differently. And I found this company called Urban Stems, and Urban Stems is now in multiple cities. But I ordered flowers, great UX, great UI, good customer experience, went through all that, ordered them. And the one thing about ordering flowers, you really never know when they show up. You really never know what they look like because you're looking at a stock photo.
Right.
So a couple hours later, I get a text from Lisa, and it's a picture of the flowers that I ordered in front of the house, front door. She's holding them up, and she says, now you can check off from your to-do list of making someone's day. She said it better than that. But the thought was, here are your flowers. They're being delivered. You're awesome. And that was part of the customer journey that no one's really thought about in flower delivery. It's like, what about the person buying the flowers and making it better for them? So that's compulsive servitude. That's over delivering to the extent that for Urban Stems, that's the definition of who they are now, which is very, very cool. The last one, Thor, is constant evolution. So it's this idea that I think you think about some of the most powerful challenger brands, they really transcend categories. And if someone like Shinola, so if you know Shinola from Detroit, they make beautiful, impeccably crafted watches. But then they started making pet supplies. Then they started making turntables, bikes, luggage. And then, when I wrote my book, this is my biggest proud moment. I did a little thing on Shinola, and I was talking about them in the book. And I said, I wouldn't be surprised if one day they opened a hotel. And I saw a couple months back, they opened a hotel in downtown Detroit. And it all made sense to me because it's that challenger brand that has earned the right to transcend categories because their origin category, they do so well. And Virgin would be an example of, look at what's happened, Virgin brand throughout the years. Yeah. So really delivering the unexpected, but in a way that's true to the origin story. So those are the 5 personality traits that we talk about with our clients and really use them as a filter when we create work to say, are we tapping into one of these or a few of these?
I love that. And I see so often now, companies are moving towards this business model where let me just have no physical contact or contact period with my customers. Right. Let them order online, let them pay online, let them get an email. Many websites don't even have a phone number anymore.
Oh, no,
like
you're right.
Somebody, it's like,
nope.
No, not happening.
That's right.
Look, I understand and I can appreciate the idea of having this machine that just generates cash. I got no qualms with that.
Yeah.
But at some point, the person that you can pick up the phone and actually have a conversation with is the one that makes it happen. I have a bad vein in my leg, and I was going to go get, for the 3rd time, vein surgery. And I was like, I'm not going back to the same place. I called around. I'm like, hey, I know I have a bad vein, like to come in, how much does it cost? I can't tell you. I can't tell you over the phone. Great. I'll come in. Well, we can't tell you when you come in either until you have a sonogram. I think sonogram. It sounds like for a baby, but it's for a leg. And I said, okay, how much is the sonogram? $750.
Oh.
I said, you're going to charge me $750 to then tell me how much it's going to cost. I'm like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
it's thing was, I called my dermatologist that one day just said, hey, we do this. I'm like, I don't want to go to a dermatologist for surgery. I call, and the receptionist, I tell her the story. I said, look, she's been my dermatologist for a long time. I just don't know her as a vein surgeon. She goes, oh, we do 20 of these a week. That's what she was originally known for. She goes through this whole thing and basically says, she's amazing. She's board certified. She didn't have that information on our website, which I gave her a little twist about. You do have a really lousy marketing program.
Yep.
But it's the person. It's the person that took the time to tell me what the qualifications were, what it was, and it was half the price. Half the price as everybody else. It's that above and beyond service, that one-on-one. Like you said, even if you're not talking to somebody, that picture of the flowers speaks 1,000 words.
It does, and I think the pendulum has swung too far over, and I think you were seeing it come back. I mean, even it's just human touch or being able to touch and feel. All that's coming back. I mean, Bumble, right? We all know Bumble, that app. They've got a magazine coming out, right? Amazon's opening bricks and mortar bookstores. I mean, there's a reason why people are missing some of that kind of human touch and tactile feel, and that goes back to customer service. And you got to credit companies like Zappos that from their early days figured that out. So this is part of our DNA. So
I don't understand why Amazon's opening a brick and mortar store, but
I don't know. I don't know. Talk to Jeff. I don't know.
Exactly. Jeff, what are you doing? Let's talk about that just for a moment. You see a lot of different businesses. Some that you see, it's like, wow, love this business model, love the profitability, love the footprint. What are two industries or types of businesses that you absolutely love?
Well, gosh, software. I mean, if I'm going to identify something that hits on what you talked about right then, scalable, profitable, recurring revenue. I mean, for all those reasons, it's just, and especially there's a nice trend towards SaaS companies that are focused on B2B, focused on businesses rather than focusing on individual consumers. And that's the play. I mean, that's
my number one.
If I were to start over and I was any good at, the technical side of software, that's what I would chase, or at least I'd pair myself with someone that was good at that side of it, because I think that's huge.
Yeah. You got a number two?
Whoopee cushions. No, I don't know. Let's think. What's another business that I've seen that I just absolutely love? Yeah. No, I keep going back to things that are just like, this isn't fair because I just said software, but we have a company that is a software company. They focus though on digital services, digital platforms for government entities, and you think about, I always love businesses like that take something that is very familiar on our iPhone every day and buying a book or ordering food on Favor or whatever that is, but then translate that to an underserved market. And I look at this company, the way they do it is just, it's seamless, it's beautiful, it's great. It's all that consumer stuff that we love, but for government entities, and it reaches citizens and users. So I just love companies like that have figured out how to take something that already works and exists and is needed, but go into underserved markets.
I like it. All right, now, 2 or 3 industries, segments that you would avoid like the plague. They are the taxi company of 2024.
We had a guy, I'll tell you one just personally. One is vaping. It's a huge one. I think we could do really well if we wanted to chase those clients. But we had a guy come in here and talk to us about his big vaping company. And I think he had a lot to spend. I think he was ready to go and all that. But man, morally, I couldn't get there. And we said, if you want us to be the vaping off-ramp, if you want your company to be the vaping off-ramp, then we will champion that message and we'll do a killer story around that. But I don't think he did. I think he just wanted to make a lot of money. So God bless him. But I look at a category or a business like that, don't want anything to do with it. Feel the same way about some things like, chewing tobacco and gambling. Not that I'm morally on a higher plane, but I want people to be excited and feel good about what they're putting out into the world. Other than that, I think, we work in financial and real estate and healthcare and technology and professional sports. Those are kind of our sweet spots. I love all those, and I think that there's room to grow. I'll let you know if I think of another one that's just absolutely one to avoid.
Whether the business model is outdated, the overhead is too high. One of the things I've talked about for quite some time now is that I think commercial real estate is going to have a difficult time moving forward, not the strip malls where you actually have to go in to get something done. But people are moving out of the high towers. People are working more remote.
Yep.
not that industry is going to go anywhere. It's just I don't know if the demand is going to continue to fill the space and the units that are being built.
Right. Yep. No, that's a good observation. I guess the other one for me is restaurants. I don't go there. I mean,
go anywhere, right? I was more along the lines of what's an industry that just isn't going to make it. It was there once, the bookstore.
Yeah.
Amazon will bring back the bookstore. I hope. I mean, I don't know what.
Gosh. Yeah, like Radio Shack. What's the next Radio Shack? I mean, there's a reason those companies go out of business. I think it's like Radio Shack's a perfect example of trying to be something for everyone. You go in there and you get a remote control car or a dongle for the computer or a back scratcher. It's like, guys, I think that's dangerous, and that's usually an early indicator that it's not going to last.
A company out there is thinking about rebranding or moving outside of their product category. How do you advise clients when it's the right time to rebrand or to move outside of their category?
Rebranding is something that comes up a lot with our clients. And I think that first of all, you've got to be ready for it. It's a huge time investment, capital investment. There's got to be a reason for it. And I think sometimes what happens is people are inside the walls of the company are just bored and they think we need to rebrand. And the question is, do you really need to rebrand? Is everyone else bored? Or is it just it needs a reboot? You just need to freshen up the story. I think if there's a big inflection point, there's an acquisition, something like that. That's a reason to rebrand.
Yeah.
If you're going into some big other market, like you're moving into China and you need a global message that's going to translate across continents, that could be a reason to rebrand. If you're trying to move away from some terrible store. We work with a waste management company out of Houston years ago, and they were constantly trying to get away from bad PR because it happened. And we took them through some rebranding to help them with that. But I mean, that's a reason to rebrand. There's some good reasons like that. You're changing big ownership change or a big change in what you're offering product wise. But otherwise, I feel like what generally needs to happen is you need to galvanize around a North Star, and you just need a good brand positioning that's strong.
Yeah.
What do you offer that others don't, that customers want and need? And there's a lot of clients out there that cannot effectively answer that. It does not mean they need a rebrand. It means they need some very, very pointed strategy help. And that gets them to elevator statement, make sure everyone's speaking the same language within their own walls. It's interesting. I'm deviating a little bit. When we go through brand positioning exercises with clients, it's amazing how much people within their own walls don't even describe the company the same way. So, it's just if they're not in lockstep, how the hell do you expect customers to understand what your differentiators are? So there's I guess my answer is there's varying degrees of rebrand. Sometimes it's a reboot, and sometimes it's just getting a messaging exercise. And then in terms of moving to new category, I think that there's are you chasing something? Are you trying to leave something behind? Is there a reason you're doing it? You're trying to get, or is it really just a great opportunity on the horizon worth going for? I think the main thing with that, timing is everything, yes. The main thing is that strategy, that brand positioning has to be so strong. It goes back to this constant evolution, right? If you're Shinola and you're known for craftsmanship and local Detroit hustle, hard work, everything's just perfect. I would expect the hotel experience to be the same way, every little touch point. So I would trust that a company that makes impeccably crafted watches is going to have an amazing hotel experience. So I think it's just a matter of making sure that you are really in lockstep internally for what you stand for, how you're different. And then you have that leeway to translate into a different category.
Yeah, I love how you pointed that out. I see rebranding of companies all the time, and I just kind of shake my head sometimes. There was a company here in Atlanta, CPA firm, 100-year history, a marquee name in accounting. And they changed, from, Smith, William, and Buckner, to a company called, it sounds like Apricot.
Yeah.
And it was like, what did you do?
Yeah.
And there was, I mean, they had the name. It was kind of, they were the St. Regis. They were the.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's like, why?
Well, you got to do it for the right reasons. And then if you're going to be apricot or whatever you're going to be, you're going to have to spend a lot of time, money, and energy explaining what that is and educating.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that clients often forget that. You just kind of expect the world to show up on your doorstep and it to be understood, but it takes a lot of education to get people to rally around it and really understand it. So it's again, varying degrees. You got to ask yourself why do it?
Yeah. All right, I promised you that I was going to dig deep into my cards here.
Oh boy,
I've got like 80 questions. I should do like just a random one, just like pull it, pull it without even looking at it. What's some of the best business advice you've ever been given?
Whew, that's a good one. It's one that this is being honest. It's going to sound bad, but I'm going to explain it. But I had so I'm in EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organizations.
Oh,
all right. Well, we got to talk about that. So I'm a big fan, and in my forum, so we have a forum, as you know, and get together once a month. In my forum, one of the guys, great guy, smart businessman, he told me once. He said, "The business exists to serve you." And I just kind of, at first when he said that, I was like, well, that sounds very selfish. I mean, he just said, no, your business exists to serve you. And I thought about that, and I thought, it's a really selfish mentality, and it didn't really sit well with me for a while. I thought, I don't know, I've got all this whole team here, and I actually wanted to serve them. I want to serve the clients. And then I realized, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the one taking the financial risk. This business has to exist to serve me. Otherwise, I can't serve others. And it's kind of a silly thing that I think I was looking at it the wrong way. But then I realized this business has to do that. And if and when it's doing that, I'm able to be my best self to serve everybody here that works so hard and wants to grow in their careers too. So that was an interesting piece of advice that took me some time to digest. But once I did it was good advice.
Yeah. Profits are good.
Yeah.
Profits are necessary. Without them, if you don't have any profits, you can't grow. If you can't grow, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You need profitability, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it starts with the business. It's like you said, it's your business. And it's got to serve you first. It has to fulfill you. If it doesn't take care of you, you show up to lead the organization, to take care of the families within that organization, take care of the clients half filled. And if you show up half filled, the result you're going to give them is going to be dog shit.
See, Thor, you said it better than I did, and that was exactly it. That's exactly what he was getting at, and I think it's probably the best business advice I've ever received. Yeah.
I got to drop the mic on that one, man.
You did. No, you nailed it. That was it.
Oh, you said nailed it. I mean, that was one of the best answers to that question ever.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad. But you summed it up well. That's exactly it.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, we get into this, mentality. It's like, everybody wants to save the world. You want to save the world? Start making some money so you have some capital to be able to do things.
Yeah.
Now, not everything is fixed by money.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. But when you have enough money coming into the organization, you have a business that's being run properly, and you don't have to manage it every single day, you can go and you can do mission trips. You can go anywhere in the world and help anybody that you want to. The more money that you have more resources, more options.
Powerful. Yeah.
So, man, how does the audience get in touch with you?
Geez, you can find me. Emails. I'm old school, so I do email. Howe, PHOWE at dn3austin.com. Instagram, Prentice Howe. I'm on LinkedIn. So all those places. I gave up on Twitter a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I had a love-hate relationship and finally decided I'm not going to be there much. But I'm on all the other social media. You'll find me.
Hey, you can't do everything.
Can't do everything. There you go. Can't do everything.
And nor should you.
I was wasting too much time. I had to get out of there.
we all do. All right, brother. I appreciate having you on the show. Thank you very much, and for all the wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good time. Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.